Welcome back, Mr. Matt Fulmer.
What's going on, Robbie? How we doing?
Do you know why we have adjourned this meeting today?
No, this is out of the blank, so I have no idea.
He gets the show. Thank you. It's a shameless plug from a guest. I love it. If more people spent more time promoting other people's work, you think we'd be in a better world?
Absolutely.
I don't
Absolutely. I don't
I
think
don't
we
agree.
promote each other enough.
I don't agree. I think if you were more selfish, people would be in a better place in life.
How do you figure?
If you care more about where you're living, you're going to want to care more about the standards that you're living, and you're going to want to adjust to fit the standards that you have set.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think there's obviously an element of personal responsibility that goes with it. So I think that's valid.
I think I'm caring enough when I pay taxes. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. It's crazy because last time we talked, I know we talked about the non-fungible tokens and all those types of things too. I actually understand those a lot more now than I thought I did before. I mean, the crypto stuff is crazy. I mean, the currency aspect of things, I don't see that being a market that's going to take off. I just see that as a thing that's going to end up being like a short-lived, maybe a couple of years, like how we've been doing, and then it's just going to kind of die off. But it's weird to buy a moment, though. That's kind of an insane thing. Like it really brings in the aspect of when time travel becomes a literal thing. Are you going to be able to go back and be like, I buy when Julius Caesar was stabbed in the back by Brutus?
That's a wild thought. I don't think I've looked at it through that particular lens, but I mean, that's the great thing about these conversations is we don't always see things through the same lens. I think that in terms of Bitcoin specifically, I do agree with you. I don't know if I see it becoming a currency unless it gets more regulated. I mean, 24 hours a day, the price of Bitcoin can change. It's not like the stock market where it closes at the end of the day. Not like that at all. So I think for it to truly be currency, it's still too volatile.
I also don't agree with the aspect of owning a moment. I don't think that should be a thing, but apparently it's people are loving that idea of buying a moment. Like who's buying 9/11, first of all, and who wants that to be even a memory or moment? Do you want to own that moment specifically, that one? Or what happens if someone owns the moment where I lost all my childhood? Like where the one moment where life hits you at 15 years old and you realize you're going to be screwed for the rest of your life working in a dead end job. Can you buy the innocence that gets taken from me? Can you buy that?
I think it's more happy moments as opposed to depressing ones or tragic ones, but who knows? I'm no expert by any means.
Well, that's like the whole idea of time travel is like kind of it's another, maybe that's the low grade T-Mobile version of time travel, is buying a moment. You know what I mean? That's the interesting thing about T-Mobile, is that they started off in malls. That was their whole way of building up popularity, was getting noticing in malls. But then anytime they had an advertisement or commercial, people go, "Oh, that's a mall network." And it's like, no, it's not. It's a good company, just in a mall. And then people are like, yeah, I'm only associating that with malls for the rest of my life. It's kind of like when you see a hot pocket, you only think microwave.
True. And I think T-Mobile has kind of risen to being one of the real cell phone brands at this point. But now things like Cricket or Boost probably occupy the space that T-Mobile had as far as not being considered one of the big players.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a big player. I was like, what the hell's Cricket? Like, yeah, I was
No, no.
like, you could have tossed out Verizon, AT&T. Shameless plugs to the giant corporations that make my cell phone run. Just make the bill a little bit cheaper would be nicer. Holy crap.
Isn't that the truth?
It's like,
Jeez.
would you like another phone? It's like, no, I just want to get the same phone where it's not going to cost me anything, but all my contacts transferred over. Well, I'm going to set you up with a new iPhone. It's going to be $400. And also then we're going to transfer over your contacts over for an extra 200. You're just like, you know what? I'm good without a phone. Are you sure the world communicates through a phone? No, I know I need it, but at the same time, I'm not playing your fucking games that you're rolling here. You're trying to trick me like one of those riverboat gamblers, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's tough because on one hand, I do think that they're way too expensive. But on the other hand, you can kind of justify it because look at all that you can do with it. it's a camera, it's a video camera, it's your compass, it's your GPS, your
I can order
phone.
the same shit on Amazon on my iPad.
Well, that's the thing. It's for a lot of people, like for me, primarily my cell phone is what I use. I don't, this laptop that I'm on right now, I barely ever use it. And that's why I think I have trouble with it when I try to get it started up. But a lot of people just use and rely on their cell phones.
Do you have a
So
premium plan for your phone?
as far as what, like unlimited data or something like that?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm on a family plan. I want to say we have, maybe it's like 15 gigs, but especially now over the last year and a half, you're at home more often. So you're in your Wi-Fi. You're not using that data as frequently. So I don't think we really have any trouble with it.
Moderation. I like that. You're kind of keeping yourself under the grasp of limitless data. Still all that 15 gigs though, and I never get a text message. That's okay. That's okay. We'll skip over that. It's so interesting because I know a lot of these like Audacity, one of the main apps I use to edit these podcasts, like audio wise. I like to make it sound crisp and clear when it comes to the audio versions. Well, they just released a new terms of agreement where they're letting you know that they're selling your information, they're selling your data, they're selling all that stuff to you, and it will be used for legal things if it does come up to now be able to help out in legal situations. And it's like everyone's firing back like, holy shit, why are you doing this, Audacity? We're going to go to different apps. And I'm like, I like it because they're honest about it. They're not just doing it secretly like Google. Mostly because I was doing a podcast and I was talking about things I'd never fucking talk about. And then it just showed up apps on, or like items on that were listed to the thing I was talking about. And I was like, dude, what? Like, do I have to keep my phone in the other room if I'm going off about the political elites? That doesn't make sense to me. I don't want any of them knowing I'm talking about them until they see the podcast episode. I get the fucking view. They like and subscribe, and then I get shot in the head later. I'm okay with that.
They're always listening, man. They're always listening. And I think it's kind of hilarious to me, the recent update with Apple, how now all apps that are tracking your data, there's a pop-up and you can ask the app not to track. And Apple is trying to position itself as the privacy brand of big tech, which, in a way is kind of funny, but also you kind of have to hand it to them because I don't know about you, but when I get those messages, those pop-ups, I typically say ask not to track. I don't let these apps track what I'm doing. So
I always thought when that thing came up, when it first came up, there's a thought in my head that just goes, now, I'm not leaving my house, so where do you expect me to be going while I'm on this app? I don't get it. I'm not playing Dragon City and walking around town. I'm just sitting in my home. But then it's like, oh no, they mean tracking as like they're going to see what your data was that you've been researching. And I'm like, you're just going to look up the weirdest Google history you have ever seen in your entire life. It's just nothing but like, what is Bitcoin? How do I get Bitcoin? Where can I find Bitcoin? Do I own Bitcoin and not know about it? Is someone plotting to kill me? And the guy's just like, Jesus, this kid's all over the map.
your CIA agent sitting there like, what's wrong with this kid? Yeah.
I would like to, if their time travel did exist, I would like to go and sit at one of these giant corporate meetings that are now like technically running the world. And I just want to sit and see what their like ideas were. Like, were they sitting around like pulling chairs out from under each other like a happy office would? Was it like was it the show The Office? Are they having fun and playing pranks on each other, like on playing pranks on Dwight or Jim? But then I look at it like, no, it's probably a bunch of people like, how can we make the most money? And that's what they do all day, is just sit there and find ways that they can add an extra fee onto your thing. Like I talk about the internet. You pay a monthly thing for your internet based on like usage and what plan you want or how much data you get, even when it comes to your Wi-Fi. Imagine if they start charging the bandwidth, like how much you're using. If you got data, sure, but they're going to charge you per minute that you use it. And I'm like, yo, I do hour podcasts. My bill's going to go through the fucking charts.
Well, and with the rise of streaming, over the recent, 5-10 years, streaming has become so huge. There's been a lot of talk about that and a big debate. Do you charge based on that bandwidth or not? Because apparently there's only so much bandwidth to go around. It's not an unlimited resource. So yeah, I mean, certainly for what you do, that would pose a challenge because that could significantly increase your bill.
How much do you think it costs to run a show? Like, what do you think is the more profitable aspect of having a show on a network where let's say you buy the Chappelle show, and then you put the Chappelle show on your or your owned network. It's your business, your small corporation compared to like Stars or all of these on-demand services. Then you have that show and you bought that. No one else can own that. And you keep playing it over and over and over again. You think that would get you more views, or would you save up all your money and in the long run of things, you would just buy the viewing of the Olympics?
Well, I think it depends. Are we talking you have a streaming service or you have a TV network?
You have a TV network, but you strictly could either buy the Chappelle show or wait till the Olympics comes once every 4 years and just buy that. Which one do you think would give you a bigger return of cash?
Okay. Is your network only in the United States?
It would be available all over.
All over. Okay. Then I would say probably the Olympics, because I think there's a lot of money in it. Probably more worldwide than here at this point. I haven't watched the Olympics myself in years. I just don't have any interest. So, I don't think that it would be a big money maker here per se. But I was going to say, if you were looking at setting up whatever your network is as a streaming platform, I think it matters whether you're going to have just a flat subscription model, or if you're going to do like what Peacock does, where there's a level of Peacock where
What is
you're
Peacock?
paying us. What's that?
What's Peacock?
It's a streaming service. It's basically NBC Universal's streaming service. So if you're in the United States and you're not using a VPN and you want to watch The Office, that's where you got to go. It's on Peacock. But Peacock has 3 levels of membership. So there's a free membership where there's a lot of ads and only certain content. There's a $5 a month membership where you get everything, but there's ads in all the shows. Or I think there's like a $13 a month where there's no ads, like a premium membership. So I would say if you're looking at something that has ads, then something like Chappelle's show or whatever else you could bring in, if people are willing to watch it, then you're going to get more ad revenue the more they watch. And that's kind of the tough thing with TV too. It comes down to that ad revenue. So you have to worry about ratings and are people actually tuning in?
See, I'm not mad at people trying to make more money for their business, but I get pissed off when I'm watching Hulu and I'm like, wait, this show's on Hulu. And I go to click on it. It's like, you don't have the subscription fee. I'm like, I'm already paying you. What are you talking about? It's like, you got to be a higher level of the branch. It's like, no, I don't want to be a higher level. I want every app and everything that I pay for to be included. Well, you only pay for this much of the app. Stop doing that, please.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's absolutely extremely frustrating. I mean, that's one of the things about like a Netflix that's good. You pay your subscription fee and everything that's there is there. And kind of the same thing, if you're at least at the $5 or whatever it is, $5 level of Peacock, you get everything. Because I think a lot of people initially were pissed off because at the end of 2020, The Office left Netflix. It moved over to Peacock in the new year. Well, what happened, if you have the free version of Peacock, you can only see the first 2 episodes, or the first 2 seasons, rather.
I've never really watched The Office.
Really? Now, see, neither had I until the pandemic. And now, admittedly, it's become a bit of an obsession. I've probably seen it 6 or 7 times all the way through.
It's just so hard for me to sit and watch TV.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
anything in general.
Well, I need to be doing something. If I'm watching TV, I'm like, what am I benefiting from this? You know what I mean? I'd rather be doing something that's productive. And when it comes to doing things that are reaching goals, whether it's designing a shirt or whether it's, getting a guest for a podcast, I kind of like to keep my mind moving. So I try and create a busy schedule to make sure I never have any lean time or things to really slack on.
I mean, busy's good, but for you, what does downtime look like? What does relaxing look like?
A coffin in a grave.
Okay, so there's no downtime or relaxing built in to your regular schedule. There's no, I don't know, sit out on the porch or whatever.
blog about something and complain on the internet. No, I don't have any. Maybe working out is like my downtime, I guess, but you know.
Okay. So I think we have different opinions of what downtime looks like for sure, but whatever works.
It's hard to sit in one spot. I commend the people that do that. That's awesome. If you can sit down and literally not give a shit about anything around you and just wanting to lay there. I fucking applaud those people. But when I do it, I sit there and my brain just goes, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing anything? Do something. What are you change the channel? Let's check to see if Deadpool's on. Let's check to see if I Am Legend's on. I start flipping through the channels. I can't find the channel that I want to end up tossing the remote. And then my brain goes, now you got to get up and get it. I walk up and get it, flip the remote over. Turns out the batteries flew out when I did that. So now I got to search the house for the batteries, and I create an event where next thing I know is 30 minutes later, I found like 50 cents worth of change. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't have the batteries. I don't know what to do. I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to do something else.
Hey, I mean, that's awesome. I think for me, I am able to sit and watch TV, not for extreme amounts of time, but I can sit and watch. But there are times, I think for me, if I hit a certain mood, like while I'm working, for example, when I get my lunch break, I'll take a few minutes to eat something, and usually I'll kind of just hang out, relax for a little bit. But there are certain days where I can't sit still. I'm organizing the junk drawer, or I'm going through old papers and throwing stuff out, and okay, this needs to be shredded or whatever. But for me, that's not like an everyday mood like it seems to be for you. For me, it kind of comes and goes.
Would you consider that a weakness or a strength, depending on how you use it?
Yes. No, I would say it's both. I think there are moments where my tendency to be able to kick back, to be able to watch a little TV, I end up procrastinating on things that I really need to get done. But then again, when the mood hits me and I'm ready to rock, I can get a lot done in a short period of time. So I think it just depends. I do feel that there are times where a little bit of rest or downtime is important. But I mean, I think most of us at some point find ourselves in a position where maybe we've had a little too much downtime. Maybe it's time to get moving, and sometimes it's harder to get moving again after you stop.
I find that if I don't expend energy enough, or I don't do something enough in my daily life that's productive, I get some very intense dreams where it's like here's a sleep scientist, Matt. Here's one for you. So last time we talked on episode 800, we talked about dreams for people listening. So let's see if Matt, you can understand this one. So I was sleeping. I think it was probably like a 45-minute sleep, which is sleep for me. That's a good amount of time too. I woke up. Well, not, I'm saying I woke up. I got to tell you the dream first. In the dream, I was like, I was laying in like a cloud. I come up and I'm in what seems to be heaven. It's like there's clouds that look like they form a gate in a way. And I'm just standing there and I'm like, what is this? And a giant, deep voice just goes, it is whatever you want it to be. And I said, is this heaven? And then there wasn't a reply. And then it goes to the point of like, okay, if this is heaven, why am I here? He goes, do you think you should be here? And I said, there's probably a billion other people that deserve this position more than me. And then right when I said that, the gates just opened up, and then I was able to go through, and then the dream ended and I woke up and I was, hugging a pillow. And I was like, all right, well, that was weird. Maybe it's something I eat before I go to bed.
Yeah, I do think sometimes what we eat can kind of cause those dreams. But I guess before I say anything, I'll say, well, what's your takeaway from that? Like, what do you think that meant? Having that
humility.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly one of the first words that came to mind for me, because it's almost as if to say, you're approaching this the right way. You're being humble and saying, well, I'm sure there's other people that deserve this more. And then that's when the gates open. I also think that it's probably, in a sense, and again, not an expert, not, trained in this at all, obviously, but the whole aspect of heaven, I think it's normal as humans for us to kind of contemplate our mortality. So I think there's an aspect of that too.
I think that's why probably like in the Olympics, for instance, people don't really get paid. I think it's an aspect of like the fame. You are technically being in a way an immortal, even just by getting a ticket to go to the game, for instance. Like when you are, even if you don't place in the Olympics, any of the top 10 positions, you still can put on your resume that you are an Olympic athlete. Like it's an immortalization into fame. I think that's why fame is so popular, is being remembered or being a sight. But I think there's a weird kind of cause and effect with everything. And I think the cause and effect is like, I think the grasp is to be humble, but to truly know that you are humble. Like in a lot of aspects, I'm not humble at all. In a lot of aspects I look at in my life, like for instance, there's things that I definitely take for granted. There's things that I definitely try and, my body, for instance, I'm not humble with that shit. I run it to all ends of the extreme because I feel like it has the energy to do so. Even though it does need rest and it needs these certain types of things, I do believe that people function off of a little bit less than what other people need. Some people can sleep 5 hours, some people can sleep 4, but to truly respect all aspects of yourself, not just in the grand aspect of humility, as respecting the things around you, the things that are kind of told to you, as a kid, be nice to others, be all these types of things that somehow people lose in those formative years, where now you go to Costco and you're screaming at the person for buying a 10-pound thing of Nutella. And you're like, what the fuck is your life? What is your life? I don't know, but it happens. And I look at that, like there's a lot of takeaways to situations like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's key to remember that we're human, right? So we have to remember that we all have flaws. Nobody is perfect. We just need to try to be the best we can be. And I think that, honestly, from what I can tell, seems to be kind of the approach that you take. And I think that dream is kind of that manifesting as well too. But, as far as the Olympics, one thing that I keep thinking of, and I want to get your thoughts on it. So this runner, you heard about this Olympic runner that was disqualified, right?
Yeah.
When do you think we're going to get to a point where it won't be a violation in the Olympics if you smoke a little pot?
Hopefully never.
Really?
I've said this before. People are always surprised by this answer. I was talking to a person at work and she was like, what do you think about that? And I was just like, I don't get the whole, people say it's a race thing. And I'm like, Michael Phelps was taken off for smoking, taken off Frosted Flakes for smoking weed. They found out that he would have been, the same act would have happened to him. I don't think you should do alcohol. I don't think you should do any type of drugs. I don't think you should do anything, because this is 100% natural test of your natural ability to be able to perform and see who is the top overall human specimen when it comes to an aspect of sports or athletic abilities. That's my only point behind it. I'm not saying like, I don't care if you smoke weed. I don't give a shit. But if you're doing a competition, I don't think, once you know in a year in advance that you got a ticket to go to that thing, you should know that you got to cut all that out of your life. In bodybuilding, there's natural competitions and unnatural competitions. Even if it's a year out, the competition is. If you take steroids, which a lot of people do, the first month they train just to get the foundation set, and then they work out as hard as they possibly can to build up from what the drugs have gotten them to. You still got to go into the unnatural because you used it. Even if it was 11 months ago, I don't give a fuck if it was a year ago. If you knew you were going there, you do not do it. I'm not upset with the fact that it was taken, because that's a giant, like, dude, the Russian doping scandal that happened like a couple Olympics ago, where they ended up going back to all the people and taking out they found out the Russians, they did this like 10-year program where a scientist was almost killed who was on the Russian side, ended up coming over here, fleeing to this country. He's still wanted in Russia for exposing it all, showing them like every single athlete was on these types of drugs, like for the longest time. Dude, they gave back the medals to those people. The second place, the third place people, they go, what's this? Oh, this is your medal. You know how you won second in the Olympics? You actually won first because the guy was on steroids that got first. And you're like, the whole point is getting gold in front of my fucking family and the admiration of the world. You're not going to be able to buy that moment back. There's no non-fungible token for that. That experience I have just lost. You think the gold medal is going to help? I don't need it now. I needed the validation in front of all these people. That's my whole thing, is you got to think of that aspect, that even if it's weed, if it calms you down, it's still something in you. I don't want any of that in you.
Yeah, well, and first of all, as far as the guy from Russia, I would be scared too if I were him. Putin don't play. He goes after people and he doesn't play. But as far as the whole performance enhancing aspect of things, yeah, I think for me, and I've never smoked pot. I just know what I've read about it, heard about it, whatever. I don't consider that to be performance enhancing. If anything, from everything I've ever learned about it, it seems to slow you down more. So if she's still winning a race when she smoked pot, to me, I don't think that correlates like taking steroids for a lifting competition. Now, I will say, based on the rules as they currently are, yeah, Phelps got pinched for it. So should she. I don't think it's a race thing at all. But my whole point is, if it's becoming this thing that is so widespread and that is so accepted and becomes legal in so many places, it's become legal in a lot of states in the US over the last 5-10 years. When does it get to a point where it's like, okay, well, this is a legal thing. How can we fault somebody for using it and then running in a race? Like, I don't see how it can help her in a race.
Mickey Mantle, the guy who pitched a no-hitter on fucking LSD. LS fucking D. That's like, if I move my hand like this, there's a million of my hand that's now coming to my hand right now. It's the hardest thing to fucking do. He got taken out of getting the record for pitching a no-hitter. He did a drug. I don't think even Barry Bonds, whatever, steroids, with marijuana, everyone has a different effect to it. You could be productive as shit when you're high. When I'm high, I just want to fucking freak out in my room. I don't know. I don't want to be around anybody. I get the worst panic attacks. I'm just not a person that can handle weed. I get sick to my stomach. But for some people, it could be productive value. I just look at it like, this is 100% trying to be all you are as a person without anything influenced into you. I don't care if they make pot the most legal thing in the world. I'm like that with alcohol too. Alcohol is legal. I'm not just one, like, I hate pot. I don't want anything to affect that. And as an athlete, you should respect that. I don't care if you have back pain and need to medicate that way. Make another league. Make a league where that's a giant thing. Make another Olympics. They're always looking for money scams or something. Have 2 Olympics per year. There's the winter and summer. Instead of doing it every 4 years, have the Stoner Olympics every 2 years. I don't know. Do something. But it's a little bit different, because I think people get mad at the eyes of how legal it's becoming and how we still stigmatize it. So, and I'm like, it's not really about that. It's more about 100% natural competition and any enhancement. I mean, it even leads into like the transgender athlete that was involved in it too. It's very, very sketchy territory. I mean, there's sides on both parts of it. I just look at it like, if I'm bodybuilding or if I'm doing a competition or something, I'm going against somebody, even if they smoke pot. What happens if they win? Then everyone's going to hold that against you. It's like when you play ping pong against a ping pong champion, or you play any type of sport against someone that is better than you, and you win, they go, well, I let you win. Oh, I was easing up on you. There's always that. Why would you give them any chance to be able to say anything against you when you're going against them?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point. And maybe it's my ignorance around pot in general, but I didn't think that it really had the capability of making you more productive. Like, I always thought it was something that was going to basically mellow you out, no matter who you are. And maybe that's, I mean, from what you said, not correct. I mean, I think there's also the aspect of, paranoia is a little bit different than
You're fucking running and you're turning around thinking someone's trying to kill you. There's
Yeah,
people
right.
that stand on the sidelines at the guardrails, like cops and SWAT people, from people that jump over the thing and cheer on a person and then jump across. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, that's a big paranoia thing if you're high as shit too.
Yeah. I think the paranoia would probably get me if I ended up doing it. I've never done it, but I think I would be the paranoid type.
There's just a few things I think should be 100% pure. when it comes to that. And I think that just comes to the aspect of sports when it's a competition. I just don't, I even if you say, okay, pot's legal and you can smoke it for the Olympics, but why would you want someone that would hold that against you? You don't want that to happen. You don't want some person going, well, it's because you were smoking pot. It's like, that's supposed to be a handicap. Well, for some people, it's not. There are some bodybuilders that do it because it helps relax their muscles. So they do that and they only get high when they work out. I can't do it because I hear every bone click.
Ooh.
It's freaking awful. But that's everyone has their own different experiences. Some people can manage probably smoking crack and then doing it. But at the same time, I don't want to make that a thing. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? You make a good point. I know that you have discussed this in prior episodes, that there have been functional crackheads who have been politicians, for example.
The mayor.
Marion Barry. Yeah.
He's I just look at it like there'll be a point where the world's going to change a lot more than what we know it's going to be now, whether that's 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. I don't know what it's going to be in the future, but when it comes to some things that are still kind of like, especially when it comes to competitions, that's such a sketchy territory, because I would even say it's even crazier, because if you're smoking weed for nerves, like anxiety or stress and all that, that's also part of the game too. Is like, you're supposed to be stressed. That's supposed to play an effect on your head. It's supposed to also test your mentality as an athlete as well too. Maybe one point we'll be able to dim that down so it's not as bad. Even if someone says like, I took fucking Tylenol before I did my run, I was like, oh no, that's something. I'm 100%. I don't want you taking anything if you're performing. Like if it can be tested for, I would say test them for Advil, test them for all these things. Well, I took my schizophrenia medication. I want to see you freak the fuck out in the pool, buddy. I want to see that schizophrenia hits you. I want to see you punching people. No, I'm just kidding. But no, there are some things, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I'm 100% like, I don't want you taking anything. If you know to have a mental curve to you where it's like, I take this drug because if I don't, I'll kill my whole family. I don't really want you in the fucking Olympics. That's a disclaimer I want to see. I want to see people that are 100% trying their hardest with the abilities and the natural things that they have about them to be able to perform so.
Hmm. So if it's a matter of they've got to take that pill so they don't fly off the handle, would that
You're not getting
have
the
you
ticket
relegate them to the Special Olympics instead?
That's
Would
terrible.
you?
Why would you say
I'm
that?
just asking.
We could
It's a
make a
valid
mental
question.
health Olympics.
Okay.
Trying to, I don't know, cash out your drawer while 50,000 people are also trying to buy things from you. We'll test out your anxiety, see if you do okay and don't have a panic attack and have a heart attack on the floor. I like this game. Let's create the mental health Olympics. I show you a bunch of videos of sad SPCA commercials with Sarah McLachlan being a stupid fucking asshole, telling me to donate the puppies or they're going to murder them off screen.
Those are the worst. Those
I'm
are the
sorry.
literal
I don't
worst.
know Sarah McLachlan. She might be nice, but at the same time, those commercials don't help anybody. They make me feel like shit.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I get that's the point, but why do you got to have that "In the Arms of an Angel" song playing in the background? If you just played "Murder" like in the background, all aboard the murder train, it's like, yes, then people will donate the shit out of some money.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can't do those commercials. I turn them off immediately.
What's the worst commercial you've ever seen?
Well, worst or like most annoying?
My worst one or most annoying one, I'd say, is the most recent with the Olympics, with the gymnast doing the flips and scanning the Visa card on the thing. And it says pay like an Olympian. I'm like, how? They don't have any fucking money. They don't get paid to do that.
I don't know. I think for me, there's two. So I've been watching a lot of UFC, been ordering the pay-per-views and everything over the last year or so. Lately, because of the NBA playoffs, they've been playing, I mean, it's all betting commercials, whether it's DraftKings or whatever. There's this one, I think it's a FanDuel commercial with Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and they play it literally every round, in between rounds, before they come back and have the fight resume. So that I think got annoying, but I would have to say the most disturbing commercial or commercials are usually the ones warning you about smoking, about, tobacco and nicotine and how it's addictive. And, I remember there was a commercial. It was this lady, she had basically her voice box, I guess, was removed. She
Oh,
had
Jesus.
yeah, that to me was
Hello.
tough to watch. Right.
Hello.
Right, exactly. And I think that was the point. They wanted it to be tough to watch, to scare people into not smoking. So I get it. And frankly, I haven't ever been a smoker, but it's hard to watch.
I just get scared when she's like, I have to take a shower and cover up my hole. And then she gets into the shower. I'm like, oh my God, if water gets in there, you die. You die.
Yeah. Well, and she has RIP.
She died?
Oh yeah, I think a few years ago. Yeah.
First Larry King in an episode, and now this one. Jesus. I found out
Yeah.
Larry King died in an episode. It actually
Oh,
happened
really?
2 hours before I mentioned it. And the guy told me, and I was like, what? And then I checked my phone. It said 2 hours ago, the article of Larry King's dead. And I'm like, oh, I had
Okay,
no
well, it was
idea.
within 2 hours. It's not like he passed away and like 6 months later, somebody's like, dude, he's dead.
Mhm. That happened with Prince Philip or Prince, whoever the guy was that
Oh yeah.
died. And I was talking about him like months before it happened. And then
Apparently,
that's not even a prediction. You could see it in the dude's face. Everything was going
well, he was
like
like
gray.
99. I
Yeah,
mean, come on. We
that's the
knew that he
difference.
had one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel for quite a while.
The oldest
Like,
woman, I think, is 118 years old.
God bless her.
She was 41 when World War II ended. Think that shit through. Why do you want to live that long? Like people want to be immortal. Fuck that. Like there's a new article coming out where I think some guy told me there was a Wall Street article about transhumanism is the next humanity or something. And it's about putting your subconscious into a machine or being able to live on forever, like Transcendence with Johnny Depp. And I'm like, do you want that? Does anybody want really like what they're gonna do a subscription fee? You have to pay $8.99 or they unplug you and then you're fucking gone.
I feel like that would just be torture though, like to live forever, or the concept of freezing your head. And
Hmm.
once technology catches up 50, 100, 200 years from now, then you can be thawed out and put onto some other body. Like in theory, yeah, that sounds cool, but nobody that you care about, unless they've all frozen their heads, nobody that you love and care about is going to be around. So what's the point?
But imagine
Why do
that,
you want to be there?
Matt. Imagine they freeze you and you've had a kid at this point. So they freeze you and then you get to meet your great, great, great grandkid.
Okay,
And you're
now
the
that's
same age.
compelling.
You're the same age. You get to drink a beer with your great, 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 great grandson.
All right, now that would be pretty wild. That would be cool.
Yo, great, 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 great grandpappy, you want to see some titties? And then you guys go to the strip club and then light it up. I'm smoking a joint with my great, 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 great 10 hours later, great grandson.
Man, if you can prove to them that you are legit and they're not freaked out by it, I think that would be pretty cool.
I know we touched on it the last time with time travel, but I want to see which aspect of time travel do you think is going to be more possible? Or do you think it's going to be discovering a new dimension that ends up reverting, like maybe it's a 5 or a certain amount of time back? Or do you think it's going to be a device that can only bring us forward, or a device that can bring us back that can't go back to the future or can't go back to the present? Or do you think it's going to be freezing? So there's no
So
past, only future with freezing.
so again, I'm no expert. I like to think that
Who the hell's an expert in time travel?
there's
Marty
plenty of people-
McFly? No, I'm just
there,
kidding.
listen, there's plenty of people who would claim to be, but I would say I'd like to think that once it's possible, that you could go forward, backward, wherever. I've listened to a lot of things where people will say you can't go back. You can't go back to before the machine was created.
You said forward, backward, and I just started thinking the Macarena of time. You do the fuck if you do the Macarena perfectly, you can break the simulation and go back through time. Do it by doing the Macarena.
Okay. All right. Well, let's time travel. Let's do it. Um, No, I'd like to think that it could happen either way. Um, Also, the aspect of different dimensions, I think, is really interesting. Is one of these. I listened to those replays of different radio shows and things like that, like the late night radio shows, and there was someone who called in because they would set up, 2 hours and say, all right, if you've time traveled, call us, tell us about it. And it's just all these wild stories. Well, I don't think I've told you this story yet, but there was a guy who said he's been to different dimensions. He's done interdimensional travel. And he was telling the host of the radio show, oh yeah, there's a version of you in this other dimension that I went to. And in the middle of the show, he time traveled and disappeared, never came back. And he's telling this story, and he said, the president banned the use of this time travel machine after you disappeared. And he's like, the president? Well, who? President Bush? Because President Bush was in office at the time this show happened. And he said, no, President Dole, President Bob Dole. In that universe, or that different dimension, Bob Dole was the president. I don't know if you know who Bob Dole is. Yeah, but he ran, but he never won, obviously. So I thought that was interesting. And they had another interdimensional traveler who called and said that he was in a dimension where the South won the Civil War. And he said that basically the split between North and South remained. It was two separate countries, the United States and the Confederate States. And the United States, and he didn't really discuss how, when, why, whatever, but at some point they merged with Canada, or absorbed Canada and became one country, which I thought was wild. But maybe it's all made up. Maybe the people just like to tell stories, but it's just interesting to listen to.
I got a scam call on my phone, and it was my phone number, and my phone sent it to spam. And I looked at it. I was like, damn, because the algorithm of how they do it is they pick a number that you might have not saved in your phone, and they pick a digit off from it. So when you look at it, you go, oh, maybe I know this person. I just don't have their number saved. And then you answer it.
Yeah.
So it was my exact phone number. And I go, huh, like that's crazy how technology is getting like that. But then I thought, how many times have I said, if there's a time travel existence, if my future self could contact me in some way? And I was like, imagine if that was me calling myself to be like, don't go to this gas station at this day. And I'm like, oh shit, I missed it. And my voicemail's full. He never left a voicemail.
That's an interesting thought. I've gotten a call or two from my own phone number before, and thought, oh boy, this whole spoofing thing that they do with these numbers is out of hand. But that would be cool if it could actually work that way. You could be in the future or whatever and call yourself in the past. It's a cool thought.
I rather, because I like the freezing aspect of things, but I get scared because when they say freeze your head, I actually like, I don't even losing a finger. I couldn't imagine that. Like, I wouldn't want to lose a finger. And then like that, oh, we can give you a bionic finger. That's cool and all, but at the same time, I like the original parts that I have. Like, I don't really want to replace out the original parts. Like, there's people that get dick enhancements. Like, there's a small, medium, and large. I don't know why you're ever going small with it. You're always going to the extreme. But it's taking a metal rod and putting it in there, and then it extends it out. It stretches it out basically, but it makes it like full, like this length. And I go, but people have died doing that. Imagine you're the type, you grow a child, you raise a child from birth, and then this kid dies by doing this penis enlargement thing. What do you do as a parent? Like, I don't know. I got to make another one, I guess. I'm 70, got to pump out some dust or whatever the hell's left in the balls.
So what you're telling me is this is one of your areas where maybe that humility is not there. You're saying you don't need the enlargement.
Well,
just kidding.
No, but I'll be modest about it. It's a normal size. It's nothing extreme. I can still fit it into some pants.
I should hope so.
Not the shorts though. No, but it's crazy to me because a topic that I'm also interested in besides Greek mythology, a lot of people don't really know, is the Victorian era. Now, there are some parts to it I didn't really know about that I wasn't focused on because the Victorian era was an expansive age of man. It's just there was so much going on, whether you want to talk about like the battle between Thomas Edison and then going also with uh, Tesla. But the part I was always fascinated with was the medical side of things. The medical industry was insane. I mean, the art of butchery. I've been following this lady since she was on. Her name is Dr. Lindsay Fitzharris. Since she was on like episode 900 or something of Joe Rogan's. So he's on like 1600 now.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's been like 3 or 4 years I've been following her, and she posts all these crazy medical and medieval experiments of how they used to fix things back in the days, where I learned about big wigs, like it, was used to hide syphilis, not the aspect of now we just consider it did I ever tell you that? So they use the white wigs. It's seen as wealth or something like that. It was to hide syphilis lesions, the giant tearing of the skin. Your flesh basically falls off like giant scabs, like a meth addict would have.
Oh, wow.
Your head would tear apart. And it's interesting because your nose falls off, and how they would, a surgeon designed a way to put your nose back on basically by taking your toe and putting your toe on your fucking nose. So people would walk around without a toe, but they would have a nose on their face. And surprisingly, it doesn't sound like it would work out, but he did it like in a really good way where it came out perfect. Or better than what it did at distance. If you're squinting, you're like, all right, that's a nose. That's a nose. It's not a toe. But the Victorian age, the way they used to break up kidney stones, they used to take a needle and a hammer, and they used to go in through the front and then break open that part to knock down the kidney stones to make them smaller. And I'm like, we're so happy. I love technology, and I also hate it when it comes to like social media and stuff. But in advancements of technology of the medical age, when they say doctors make house calls, one of the best surgeons, at least of that era, was Dr. Robert Liston. And what he, or Lister or Liston. See, there was two of them. There was Joseph Lister, who was the guy Listerine was named after. And then there was Robert Liston, who was a surgeon who had a 300% kill rate in one of his surgeries. He killed the patient on the table, which is kind of known to happen back then. There was really no sanitation and stuff like that. But he also killed his assistant by chopping off his assistant's fingers because he was moving so quick. He was like the fastest surgery guy. And it was a spectated event back then. So people would sit around in seats and watch the surgery go on. So he chopped off this woman's leg. She's going to die because there's a small chance of you living after that, even if it's an infection. And while he was switching out blades, he would take the blades and he would move so quick, he'd put them in his mouth and keep going. So he'd get the blood contaminated all over his lips. Surprisingly, he didn't die of disease, but he sliced off his assistant's fingers, and then he was moving so quick, he sliced an old spectator's coat, and the guy had a heart attack because he thought it cut him, and he had a heart attack and died. So he had a 300% kill rate in one of his surgeries. But back then, surgery was, dude, it was a fascinating era to me. I'm just looking at it like, oh my God, like you see the crazy, like, when the x-rays first came out, not even in the Victorian times, later down the road, they didn't know the radiation damage that these machines were causing when they were first created. There's photos of people's feet that are severely burned and just radiation damage, just completely twisted and crunched over because the radiation machine was giving us such a heat to it that it was just causing people's feet and like hands to all collapse in and just turn into like skeleton.
It's interesting that you bring this up because I just listened to something yesterday, actually, where they were talking about not even any, complicated or invasive surgery, just childbirth back in that era. And I don't know if it was in a specific country, if it was France, or if it was somewhere else, or if it was Europe in general, but there was a specific point of time, like a year, where like 99% plus of pregnant women died giving birth. And what happened, so apparently at that point in time, it wasn't known, like germs, bacteria, like none of that was really discovered. So these doctors would go from working with a cadaver straight to deliver a baby, wouldn't wash their hands in between. And they ended up killing all these people. But what they found, they eventually realized that the women who helped or were helped in labor with by a midwife instead of a doctor had a higher survival rate. and they looked at it and they noticed the midwives weren't working with the cadavers like the doctors were. So there was this one doctor who said, hey, I think there's something to this. Like, we need to wash our hands. And he made it, whatever hospital he was running, he made it a rule that you had to wash your hands. And I think they cut the fatalities down like 90% over whatever, a year or whatever. But he was so ridiculed by his peers, by other doctors. They were insulted that he was basically saying, hey, you guys are dirty, don't do this, you need to wash your hands, that they basically picked on him and bullied him so much. And I don't know the doctor's name, but he ended up in an insane asylum at the end of his life. He went nuts because all they did was rail on him about, how he was basically calling them out when he was really right.
Yeah, that's happened a lot. It's actually pretty intense back then, just like the amount of advancement and also the craziness of it all. One thing I had to look up a second ago was through the discovery of the Victorian era, I came across an article. You ever know what the Burke and Hare murders are?
Now,
So the Burke and Hare murders were a series of 16 killings committed. I'm reading this, so it's not just coming out of my head. Killings committed over a period of about 10 months in 1828 in Edinburgh, Scotland. They were undertaken by William Burke and William Hare, who sold the corpses to Robert Knox for dissection at his anatomy lectures. So these people were going around like eventually, like they started off robbing corpses. They started robbing grave sites. They started opening them up and they were taking the bodies and they were taking them to the school and they would get paid a fee for the dead body so they could practice using in the anatomy, whatever dissections. Then eventually people started catching on like, hey, you're because for a big period of time and era, I would say there was a giant fear of people's loved ones getting dug up and then being sold and then people stealing their items. So what people would do is they would take these giant steel cages and lock their family members inside of them with you had to break the key. I mean, you had to break the lock. And then, if you don't have the key, then eventually people were just digging up their loved ones and taking their dead bodies and putting them inside of their house. So you would walk home and then your dead grandfather was just sitting on the couch. He'd be laying there because you were so afraid that someone was going to, desecrate your loved one's belongings. And so these guys, they would, and I'm not reading off the phone anymore, so it's coming out of memory, but these guys would dig up these bodies and sell them to the school. Then eventually they were running out of things to do. So they started creating murders. They started killing people like that were walking the streets home alone at night and then selling the bodies over. Then eventually one of the doctors was like, dude, this guy was he's missing. Like, this is him. Where did you find this body? And then they ended up trying to escape and then ended up get caught later. But it was like this crazy thing of like what people would do for the money aspect of things. Like the money was so good. I mean, people talk about Benjamin Franklin. He had dead bodies in his basement. He was practicing on cadavers that they ended up finding out later. I'm like, he's the legit reference for, do you have bodies in the closet or bodies in the basement? Like, that's what it is like, there's always a dark side to someone. You never know how far you could go, but in the name of science,
that's wild. And kind of unrelated, but related. You jogged my memory on this when you said you come home and your dead grandpa's sitting on the couch. Have you ever seen these pictures from funerals where they pose the dead body?
Like,
you ever heard of that?
Selfies or high five?
No, like apparently it's a thing where certain people, when they die, they want to be viewed not in a coffin, but in a certain way. Like there was a woman who wanted to be sitting at a table with cards in front of her, like she was playing cards. There was a guy who wanted to be on his motorcycle, and they literally posed the dead body on the motorcycle. Or there was another one where the person was just sitting propped up in a chair, but they actually they would break the bones and position these dead bodies. It's creepy. It's creepy enough that you're looking at somebody who's passed away, but to then see them posed like that, I wouldn't be able to do that.
There's I've talked to a few morticians, a few people that work in there. They kind of get numb to it, or people that run funeral homes. There's sometimes like the guy's crotch or the dick, it's stuck in the upright position. It's stiff still. The blood's still kind of in there, and it's hard to shut the coffin. So they'll actually chop it down to get the coffin to go down. The amount of work that goes into that, like people don't understand. Like that's a very, very rough job, especially when you have to clean the dead body up and stuff like that to make it look presentable for an audience member or to look for the family. So you don't see like, oh, he looks peaceful. Well, yeah, because they put a lot of makeup on there because it's not peaceful when it happens. That's why it's so
Yeah.
weird how we still do I get it if you want like a casket and all that, but why don't we just go into cremation? Like I get it because my theory about cremation is imagine if your body is a ticket to the afterlife and you feel everything that happens. Imagine you'll slowly degrade in heaven if your body's degrading on earth. But imagine if they burn you and then you're just a pile of ash in the afterlife.
I don't know. I see what you're saying, but I think for me, I think the aspect of the viewing brings closure. Like I know when my one grandfather passed away, we had a viewing. A couple years later, my other grandfather passed away and he was just cremated. There was no service, no viewing, nothing. And I think as a result, for a solid 2 years, I would see something or I'd go to some new restaurant because he was into different restaurants, kind of like I am. And I would think, oh, I got to tell Pop. But then I would remember, oh, I can't, he's not here. So I think it's definitely more for the surviving family members to kind of get closure and wrap their heads around it. But 10,000-foot view of it, I guess you could say it's a bit of a weird practice too, at the same time to spend time with a corpse. So
Maybe have the viewing still, but then afterwards cremate, or maybe find another alternate route, because I think a lot of it's like also a money thing too. That's why the thing is like it's always so expensive for these items and these things to carry for your loved one, and it's a sensitive thing, but it's a way to profit off another person's pain too. You're willing to put anything because they make you feel like shit. Once you want them to have the best coffin, are you really going to be cheap when it comes to that? And it's like, oh my, like I get it because you got to make a business too. But at the same time, it's like in a grand aspect of things, it might be even more convenient to just have, I'd rather have my family with me if I'm going to have it, the ashes or something like that. It's nice to have a grave plot or something, but buy a small little plot thing. You don't have to have anything dug under there. Just even spread the ashes in that area. I don't know. It's such a weird one that nobody really wants to touch because it's such a sensitive subject. It's a lot of things nowadays. It's like there's no way there's to improve it. There's no way to even do anything to it. The best way that we're doing is the way we're doing it because nobody wants to spend the time to focus in onto it.
yeah, for sure. And I think for a lot of people too, the aspect of religion plays into it. If your religion says, this is how you have to do it, then that's how you have to do it. Like I think I'm not Jewish, but I think in the Jewish faith, although I know last time you thought I was because I said I was going to temple.
You said Temple University.
Yeah, yeah. But in the Jewish faith, I think isn't the rule within 3 days? I think you have to have the funeral and bury the body. Like I think it's a very time sensitive thing based on their religion.
I think that has to be dependent on how your family views it, because a lot of people, like my family, for instance, we want it done as soon as it's like happened. You want it as fast as possible because there's only so much viable time.
Yeah.
When that incident occurs. You got to make sure you're not going to sit and let it for a week or two on ice. Is just kind of degrading in my aspect of things. Um, there's a religion out there that they don't transfuse blood or do any of those things when it comes to surgery. They can't have another person's blood go inside of them. They're just against it in their religion. Dude, imagine that back in the Victorian era. You're about to get surgery and a person, I can't have other blood go into me. It's like, get him out
So
of
you
here.
want to die.
Get him out
Yeah,
of here.
right.
You're going to die anyway, technically. I mean, what I was saying about Robert Liston, for instance, another cool thing or interesting thing they do back in the day when doctors made house calls is Robert Liston would knock on your door, open up the door, Matt. Open up the door. Does it make a noise? Wow. Unless
I'm not a
WD-40
voice
the
actor,
shit out of you.
Robbie.
But you open up the door, you go, okay. It's like, is it Tuesday already? Because he would tell you that he's going to be at your house on this day and he's going to chop off your leg. You open up the door, he goes, it's time. It's Tuesday. And you go, no. And then he would run. There's accounts of people running away and hiding. He would kick down your door. He's 6'4", would come in, a big stocky surgeon guy, and literally throw you up on your kitchen table, take your leg from you, and just walk off. Like, just that's it. He fix you up, do whatever he has to do, fix as in whatever is manageable to survive in. But I just thought that was interesting. Is like, it's crazy now where it's like you tell your doctor to go eat shit if he tells you your pain isn't at high enough level. It's like back in the day, they would just literally make your pain, or they would do something because they just seen it as a struggle. A better way to fix it is just by getting rid of the issue rather than trying to find another way around it. I mean, it wasn't until Robert Liston, or no, Joseph Lister, when they discovered like all his major giant thing that led to sanitation was just using water to clean his utensils after his surgeries, washing his hands. He didn't think to put hot water on. He didn't know about all the germs and all that. He was just using regular water. So it did play an effect to reducing some chemical, like, or some like crossover from germs. But the heat, you need heat to do it, as we found out later. I just thought that's interesting too.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. Apparently, if possible, the rule is 24 hours, not even 3 days. It's as soon as humanly possible for the Jewish faith. I knew it was a tight time frame. I wasn't sure what it was.
You felt like you had to look that up.
I had to look it up. It was bothering me. I
That's
had to
good.
know.
I like
I had to
accuracy on
know.
my show, but I also like getting
Yeah.
close to accurate too. Um,
I try to be as accurate as possible.
man, it's crazy. Just time. I'm really so curious. I think of why I'm obsessed with time travel is I really want to know what the future is going to be like, because I feel like it's going to be so different from where we're at now. I'm hoping it's for the better, but I also don't know. Like, imagine if we're all just floating heads and like robotic vehicles.
Yeah, I hope it's not that. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I think right now, just in our lives, what we've seen over the past 10, 15, 20 years, it's hard to see it getting better, I think. But fingers crossed, hopefully things can improve. I don't know. I think ultimately, unless something drastic happens with technology, you and I probably won't be alive to see how drastically different it is. Because that's probably, I mean, if you think about it, 100 years from now, maybe would it
Nick,
be like that?
watch it be
Or
tomorrow. We all get like
you're
brain
right.
chips.
Well, that's
Some Robert Liston character comes in and just grabs you by your throat, slams you up against the wall, and puts a chip into your head forcefully.
there are some people that believe the microchip is already underway, but I don't know about
Oh,
that.
really? I didn't hear about that. Was it coming in a shot?
Possibly, yeah.
Heard a guy named BG was running it.
Right, right. Yeah, it's supposed to be the mark of the beast. Although the interesting thing about that, I was listening to one of those replays from like 15 years ago, and there's this process called remote viewing. Have you ever heard of remote viewing?
Yeah, I know what remote viewing is. You actually use that to track Osama bin Laden. Obama used.
Yeah, so you allegedly can use it either in real time, you can see the future, etc. And one of the uh, most world-renowned remote viewers used to be in the U.S. military, and he was saying like 15 years ago that he expected a virus, and there would be like I think he didn't use the word sham, but he said that it would basically be blown out of proportion, and the vaccine, essentially wouldn't truly work. That's what he was saying. So it's interesting whether you believe that or not. Well, believe that it didn't work or not. It's interesting that 15 years ago he was saying all these things, and now today a lot of them are starting to line up. Um, I don't know if you've heard about all the people. I don't know the exact number, but it's been a good handful of people who were vaccinated but still got infected.
Yeah, well, that's what they told you is even if you get the vaccination, it's not going to 100% guarantee keep you from getting sick.
But what other vaccination do you remember? I mean, other than the flu, what
I
other
can't go off
vaccination?
about it. I'm just saying the COVID website, the CDC website has COVID vaccine complications as a tab because they've already surpassed the number
Yeah.
of people that have gotten it and had bad side effects compared to polio that's been around for 40 years. So I'm just saying it's all what happens when you rush shit. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Get it if you get it.
absolutely.
I don't, I'll be over here just watching, staying away, keeping my distance, not to cough on you while you're eating a fucking Brussels sprout salad, you sons of bitches out there and they're sipping their teas. I'm a
Oh,
man of the people, but at the same time, the people piss me off in so many ways.
I think that's fair. I'm sorry, I don't trust anybody that eats a Brussels sprout salad.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. A Brussels sprout. That's a hearty vegetable to eat on a salad. A salad on top. It's a vegetable on a vegetable.
I just Brussels sprouts in general, I don't get along with them.
I
They're
like them a
just
little bit on like a fork, just normal by itself. Like you stick a fork in it, you walk around the house like a savage, and you just eat one off the fork. I'm not the
Yeah.
type that does like a bowl on the table that's filled with pretzels and all that. No, that's not my. Oh, I'm gonna grab my food, eat it in the kitchen, then walk over into the living room, and then I'll watch TV or something. I don't want to mix my snacks and my meals. People go, I want to eat. I watched Fast Nine, and I was in the theater, and I could smell the dude behind eating popcorn, just loud as shit. It's an empty theater. We went in the middle of the day, me and my buddy, in the middle seats. It was only like 5 people in the theater. Dude sat right behind us. I was like, bro, you could have picked anywhere, but you picked right behind us. And he's going, I'm like, you got your teeth out? Are you gnawing that gum or the popcorn to death? I don't get it. But I was just like,
he was
oh,
gumming it.
I was going to slap him.
See, that's the type of person you could be in a relatively empty parking lot with literally 100 open spaces, and they park right next to you. That's that same guy.
It's like, in
Hate
case, in case anybody mugs my car, they're not gonna mug it if I'm next to another car. It's like, no, they're going to mug both of our cars.
that. Right. Hit one, hit the other, and then they're out. Quick getaway.
I don't know. People are strange. Maybe he's got anxiety. We can't pick on him. I don't know.
Who knows? That's true. You know, as they say, you never know what battle somebody's fighting. So
And if they drive a Chevy Malibu, be scared.
this is true.
That's
This is
every
true.
Amber Alert is a Chevy Malibu. Well, Matt, you giving me enough of your time, brother, man. Where can people find you? Are you still doing the Suburban Foodie page or
It's still there.
Get on
Haven't
it.
posted anything in a little while,
Come
but
to Ocean City for your first post in a long time?
that would be a good idea. I have had some good posts from Ocean City, and I
We
think
were
it might
just
be
trending
time.
again. It's 2 times in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, our firework truck exploded.
Jeez.
I was like, damn it, is there somebody dead? They're like, you want someone to be dead? I was like, it'd be cool to see an arm. It's like laying on the side of the road.
Oh, you got a trend for something good, Robbie.
That's what I'm saying. But apparently our town can only trend for the bad stuff. That's okay.
Ah, maybe the next trend.
Maybe the next one. Come at me, bro, t-shirts. Remember that? That was a trend.
There you go. Free hugs.
So I'll just post the Suburban Foodie link in the description for my audience members. Is there anything you want to end on, Mr. Matt?
No, just appreciate your time. Thanks for having me back, and look forward to hopefully doing it again.
That's what I like to hear. Doing it again. That means we're friends. You're sucked into the loop.